How's it going, everyone? It's Tekken here, bringing my very first Tekken 8 guide video, and today we're going to be doing the beginner's guide, starting off with button notation. So we're going to be going over all the basic stuff you need to know to start off this game. So starting with the button notation, this game has 4 buttons, and each button represents a different limb. So you have this limb, which is the 1, second limb, third limb, and the 4th limb. These are going to be known as the 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. So these are going to be your basic buttons. And when it comes to directions, most of the directions are basically just what you expect. So you have up direction, down, you have back, forward, and then you have up, back, up, forward, down, back, and down, forward. So these are going to be directions you can be used to basically to understand the game. And of course, as you can see from this chart right here, this chart is basically, once again, just the same thing that I just talked about. So if you wanted a better representation from like the actual controller standpoint, then this is what it'll be looking like. So keep this in mind. This is what people are talking about when we bring up the button notation. It's just a universal way to talk about the game so everybody understands what's being said. So next up, talking about the movement of Tekken. Tekken is going to be a 3D space game, so you're going to be moving in the 3D space when it comes to this game. But talking about the basic movement, so this is a game where you can go back and forward. So you know, you can walk back, you can walk forward, you can also dash back by tapping double back. So double back will give you back dash, and then tapping forward and then holding forward actually give you run. So if you want to back dash, you simply just tap it just like this. This is going to be your standard back dash without doing the advanced techniques of Korean back dash and stuff. And then of course, running forward, you tap it and then hold it, and you will simply run forward. Now if you want to actually jump, you just simply hold up, you'll get a jump. And if you want to hold down, you hold down like this by just simply holding it down and put. Now if you want to go to the side, you simply flick. So you simply tap it lightly, and that's how you go up. So tap up lightly. If you want to go down, you tap down lightly like that. Now if you want to actually hold it and keep going into position, then you tap it and then hold it. So tap and then hold, just like this. So you tap it once and then you press it again and then hold it, as you see, just like this. And this is how you will actually do the side walk. So these are basically the movements of Tekken at the basic level. So once again, you have your forward, your back dash, your forward run by tap hold, and then you have your down hold, which is going to be crouch, your up hold, which is going to be jump, and then you have your side, which is flick down for this way, and then, you know, hold it and then hold it for this. And these are the basic movements of Tekken. Now, talking about the different states in this game, there are a couple of different states inside of this game that you have to be aware of. One is going to be your standard standing state. So, you know, when you're pressing your buttons, you're going to have your standing state button. So 1, 2, 3, 4, like we talked about before. However, there is a crouching state. So for example, if I press my down forward 4, once again, that's down and forward at the same time with your forward button, which is this, I'll get this button right here. Same if I go crouching like this. So if I go into the crouching state, if I go crouching, see, or press crouching, you'll get this. However, in a full crouch state, if I'm holding forward, you'll see he actually does this. And this is a full crouch stage, which gives him a different move, which will give him this. So if I just press it for a second and I don't get that, you'll see he just does this, right? If I press down forward, he won't actually get that attack. He'll just simply get this. However, if I hold it, you go into full crouch, you get a different button. So this is considered a different state. Full crouch state is considered a different state than standing, and considered different than your actual ducking state. There is another state in this game, which is the while rising state. So when you're actually doing this, you come up. People can say while rising, while standing, by the way. So as you are coming up from a ducking state, you can press buttons. You'll get different buttons. So notice these buttons are different than my actual standing jab. So this is my standard jab, while rising jab, while standing jab. This is it. If I do while rising 2, it'll be a launcher, as you see. So every character is going to have different buttons and different properties on their different buttons. So check to see what your character's while rising buttons are. But this is a different state that is very important inside this game. So these are pretty much the 3 main states you need to know about. Is your standing state, or 4, I guess, your standing state, your ducking state, your full crouch state, and then your while rising or while standing state, which are going to give you different buttons depending on which state of the game you are in. Now, talking about attack properties, so there's basically like 4 main attack properties inside this game. There's high attacks, there's mids, there's lows, and then there's an attack called special mids, which I don't know if Jin has one, but special mids are basically attacks that can be blocked high or low. Now, the thing to know about high attacks are typically higher attacks are typically more safe, and they're typically on the faster range. So high attacks are something that's going to be faster and more safe. The downside to these attacks typically are they can be ducked. So high attacks can be ducked. So right now I have Kazuya crouching after he blocks an attack. As you can see, he goes down to a crouch. This is a high attack that I'm doing. So if I press it again, you'll see that he actually ducks it. And this is the downside. This attack that I'm doing is going to be a plus attack, meaning that if he was to block this attack, it is my turn. I'm basically have frame advantage. I mean, I get to act first. So we press something of the same, say, attack startup, I would win. So I would win if we press something with the same startup because I am plus on this jab right here. But because he is ducking it, he actually can punish me, because remember we were talking about these attacks where you can come from the WoW rising state. So while I'm in recovery, he can actually punish me with something, and that makes it very scary. So this is something you have to keep in mind, that certain attacks in this game can be ducked. If you're using too many highs, your opponent can start trying to duck them and try to get around them. Now, what beat the high attacks will be mids. So when you think your opponent is going to duck, this is one you want to start putting in your mids. And mids can be sometimes around safe to around, like, you know, somewhat negative. It depending on the character and depending on the type of mid and the reward that it gives, they try to balance it around that. So finding your good mids is going to be something very important. Finding your good jab mix. So being able to jab and then go into your mids to keep your opponent guessing between the high and low states. These are going to be something that is going to be very crucial. So say if you're fighting an opponent that does not care about you doing highs or mids, they're like, I'm just going to block these all day. I don't care if they're plus. I'm just going to sit here and block this. What do? Well, this is where you start putting in your lows. Lows are going to be attacks that you can use that are going to be something to basically try to force your opponent to start crouching. So once they getting hit by lows, you know, these aren't the most damaging attacks. They can be damaging depending on the character, because some characters can get combos off these. So say something like, you know, this could be pretty damaging, or some characters that have big sweeping slow lows that give them like counter hit launchers and stuff like that, or just launchers. These are going to be very scary. However, for the most part, lows can be just used as a way to poke your opponent to make them actually think about actually going low, because they're tired of getting their legs clipped, and these add up over time. So the downside to lows is that a lot of lows, when they are actually blocked, can be pretty unsafe on block. So getting hit by a low is not the end of the world, but getting your low blocked could mean a lot of damage is coming your way. So the risk reward for lows can be pretty scary sometimes, and that's why you see a lot of people kind of just go for their safe highs and mids, and then try to sneak in some lows when they can. So keep that in mind. The main way you actually block in this game, if you're not used to Tekken, is you don't actually crouch block like an anime game or like a Street Fighter, where you normally crouch block and you try to react to the overheads. No, you stand up and actually try to react to the lows. So you try to react to the lows by just crouching or doing a parry, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So now I'm talking about the heat and rage system. So rage is going to be a mechanic where your character sort of glows with this red aura, and this is typically something that's going to happen when your health is at low value. So you see I'm on it right now because I'm in training room, but if you look at the health bar for Kazuya right there, you see that there's a little notch right there. When your health goes at that notch, that is when you're going to actually have access to the rage mode. And what rage mode is going to do is it's going to give you a damage boost. So this is going to give you a damage boost, which is going to be a good comeback mechanic. So you're going to be doing more damage to your opponent, and you also have access to your actual super. So you can actually have access to your rage super, which you can utilize at any point. Now the thing to know about the rage super is once you actually utilize it, it actually takes you out of rage mode. So when you use the super, you're going to lose access to your rage mode. So it's going to mainly be something you want to cash out on once you can feel confident that you can, basically steal the round. So once you have access to a round still, or you feel confident that this cash out point is good, that's when you want to use it. So you don't want to use it right away when you get it. You want to try to like stay in this mode, try to get as much damage as possible, and then utilize that once you feel like it is worthy to use. And the other thing to talk about when it comes to the rage super as well is that this is going to be something that actually does have the ability to absorb hits. So this is going to be something that you can utilize to basically, if you see an opponent pressing something, say in a neutral, and you're like here, and you see them pressing something, you can react to it with this and absorb the hit and then actually kill them. You can absorb the hit as long as you got enough life to actually take the hit. If you don't have enough life to actually take it, it will kill you before your super comes out. So just keep that in mind. Now, talking about the new heat mechanic. So there's a couple ways to actually go into heat. One, you can just do it straight raw. Like you could just go straight into it. When you do it this way, you actually have less heat to start off with. As you saw, that it actually started off a little bit lower than normal. So just to show it one more time, there you go, and bam, it started off at like, you lost about like 70, like probably like 25% of your meter before it actually starts. So I believe the timer is like what, 15 seconds normally, and then you get like 10 seconds if you do it this way, something like that. Now, as you see, it normally does a hit to it if you press the button to go into heat and then you actually tap back. Your character actually won't do the hit, and you could just go into an animation and not do the attack. So this is something you could utilize sometimes if you don't want to whiff the attack, you just want to go into it so you can start you know, trying to apply your pressure from wherever you are. You could do that rather than whiffing the attack and then having the opponent actually punish you. So this is something you could do for an activation. Keep in mind, it does still take away that like 25% of your meter. When you actually do it, that still goes away. So it doesn't matter if you do the attack, that still happens. Now, of course, you have the heat engage as well. So when you hit the opponent, you do this, and there's certain attacks in your command list that the game will show you to actually start this. And this is how you actually get the full use of your meter. So when you hit with these attacks, it automatically does this, and you basically go into a mode where you run into the opponent and you get access to certain things. So every character is going to have unique things that is going to be unique to them when they're inside of. For example, for Jin, everything you do turns into a perfect electric. Like, you don't have to do perfect electrics, everything just turns into a perfect electric. You see his eyes glow and you get perfect electrics right off the bat. So this is something unique to him. Once again, if I just do it normally, you see no perfect electrics, no eye glows. This is something that is unique to him. So every character got something unique to them that is going to either give them new moves or give them special properties. Check out your character to see exactly what they get inside of heat. But the other unique thing about heat is when you actually hit with a heat engager, when you're actually in heat, if you hold forward, you'll actually do a dash. And if this is on a hit, this will actually launch them in the air. So on block, it'll just you just dash at them again and you get access to more plus frames. So you could go for a mix up again, or you can you know, just take the pressure and stuff like that. When you actually do this heat dash though, it do spin the rest of your heat bars, so just keep that in mind. So just show what happens if I get it on hit. So if I go into something like this, you can see I can pick it up for a combo, and that's just a basic combo. Of course, with your whatever character you're playing, the combos will vary, but that's just to showcase that it is something that can be comboed off of. Now, of course, inside of your heat mode, you actually have access to a super, and some characters have access to two depending if they have stances or not. So while Jin have a stance, he doesn't have access to two, but when you do it, no matter when you do it, you spin the rest of your heat bar. So this is something to keep in mind, and it doesn't matter how low it actually gets. It can get to the lowest possible point. As long as you have a little bit left, you can spin it for your heat smash, and heat smashes are typically something that's going to be like safe or plus on block, that allows you to either extend or allow you to at least you know, go back to neutral or possibly get some pressure. So keep those in mind. The heat smashes are pretty good, and sometimes they actually can be lows and stuff. So while Jin's may not be a low, there are some characters that do have lows. His start with a mid, so you know, if you think the opponent's going to duck, then you can actually start with this and get some pretty good damage. Again, some characters have lows and stuff for theirs. So next thing I want to talk about is going to be combo theory. So inside of Tekken, combos typically have three parts. There's typically like a launcher like this. And once you go into your launcher, there's typically something we call the screw attack, which basically sends the opponent up in the air, as you can see here. And they changed the way this actually works inside of this game. Rather than sending them sort of far away, now it actually keeps them kind of close to you, and you can actually do this very much at the wall than you did before. Because it launches higher, you actually get better wall combos than you did before. So combos are now a little bit easier to do at the wall and stuff because of this. So you can actually try to utilize these at the wall more than you could before. And then when you do these, you go into typically your ender. So a basic combo will look something like this. So as you see, there was three parts to that combo. There was the launching part, as I showed. Then there was the screw attack, which was the flip kick. And then there was the ender, where he sort of just kicks you away like this. These are the three main parts of combos in Tekken. So it mainly, if you're finding combos, you know, if you are practicing combos and maybe some of the combos you find online are too hard, if you keep these main things in check when it comes to actually doing your combos, you will find out you have pretty good success. As long as you find something that goes into a launcher, into a screw, into some sort of ender, which is typically like your most damaging big thing that like sends your opponent flying, or it could be something that keeps your opponent kind of close, but just a big damaging attack towards the end. then you should be on your way to actually having some pretty decent combos. Now, talking about parry and ground teching. So said I want to talk about parry a little bit later, and now here we are. So to parry in this game, you pretty much want to time when an opponent is doing a low with your crouching down forward. So you press crouching down forward at a relatively around the same time that your opponent is actually doing a low attack, then you can actually parry it. So it will look something like this. And this allows you to follow up for a combo. So and showcase what that look like, and once again you can follow up with the combo opportunity. So this is something that's going to give you some good damage, some solid damage. It's going to be scaled, so you don't want to actually like spin super hard on like a parry if you don't got to, because these are definitely scaled, but this can definitely, you know, give you some damage if you know your opponent is going to be going for something of this nature. This is very good for things that like when you block it, it doesn't reel back. This is something that reel back, so you can actually get a real better punish if you actually block it this way. But there's some attacks in this game where when you block the low, they actually can go for like a low mid or like a low high, and it's going to be harder for you to actually retaliate on that. So for attacks like that, going for this parry is going to be something that's going to be a little bit easier to do, so you can get something of a punish. Now, talking about ground tech. So when you actually touch the ground like this, you lay on your back. There's different ways you will actually land depending on what happens, but the standard typical way is you're on your back. And when you're in this state, there are basically a lot of teching options you could do, but the most safest ones that you'll probably go to a lot are probably going to be by just simply pressing back, which gets you off the ground by the character just going back a little bit, or by pressing 1-2 or 3-4 when you touch the ground. If you press 1-2, they'll roll into the background, and if you press 3-4, they'll roll towards the screen. So this showcases what that looks like. So I'm going to press either 1 or 2 when he actually sweeps me, just like that, and I'll roll into the background. And then again 3-4 this time, you see I roll this way. These are going to be pretty safe ways to get up. There are other ways to get up, like you can get up with attacks. Like if I press 4, it'll get up, press like down 4 or something, it'll get up with attacks and stuff. So there are ways to get up with attacks, like that, the 3 attack right there, as you see. There's ways to like spring forward and attack and stuff like this. These are going to be more riskier ways. You could also do the 1+2 way. These are going to be more riskier ways. So for the sake of beginners, the main ways you're going to want to get up are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now there are things that certain characters love to do in this game, which are going to be ways where you get up in a certain way because they like make you tech a certain way. They will actually like unblockable you. In order to get out of a lot of those, typically the 1-2 or the 3-4 are the best ways to get out of that. The back one is good, but the back one is the one that gets you caught by some of those unblockable setups that were definitely in Tekken 7. I don't know if they're in this game. There probably are some, but the 1, 2, 3, 4 should get you out of a decent amount of those. Just some knowledge checks, things to keep in mind. So yeah, those two are basically going to be the main ones that you want to utilize, especially for a beginner. Now, talking about throws in Tekken. So Tekken has some pretty interesting ways of throws. There's typically 3 ways to break throws inside of Tekken. There's a 1 break, a 2 break, and then a 1+2 break are your main ways to break out of throws. So you can tell by which way to break a throw inside of Tekken by the leading hand. So if you see the hand in the background here with Jin facing is the leading hand from the first player side, this typically is the 1 break. Now if you see the hand towards the screen leading first like this is the 2 break. And then of course, if you see both hands leading like this is the 1+2 break. So depending on the hands that you see is the way you want to break. Now this is going to be something that is going to be a little bit difficult for newer players to actually deal with. Keep in mind that throws are going to be high, so you can't just actually duck them as well. But if you find yourself being thrown a lot, having this knowledge is something that is going to be good for you to practice with. You can set this up in training room and actually do some practicing with this. I'll make a whole training room video about how the training room and how to actually properly use the training room and optimize your training room experience in a later video. But this is something to keep in mind when it comes to throws. So see if your character has this full-on throw game of having the 1 break, the 2 break, and the actual 1+2 break. This is basically known as a full throw game there. So now talking about punishment a little bit. So if you're new to Tekken, this may be a little advanced, but just something to keep in the back of your mind for when you actually want to take the extra step. So things are going to have frame advantage depending on the hit or block. And we set up a certain thing here in the actual settings here, which is very important for this game if you actually don't know. So just to talk about this a little bit, you set the first action to standing and then the second to block all. This lets you know what are natural combos or not. So certain things in the game that are strings are not natural combos. For example, if I do a string here with this character, say something like this. If we do this string right here, this is not a natural combo. As you see, he is blocking the second hit and this doesn't combo. However, this combos. So there are things that combo and certain things that don't combo that you need to keep in mind. But the reason why we're talking about this is a lot of things in the game are going to be a certain frame advantage. Things that are -9 are always going to be safe because the fastest buttons always in Tekken is the jab, and the jab is 10 frames. So if you see something that says -10 when you're actually training against stuff, then that means it's punishable by jab, and that means you could get a jab punish, meaning, you know, if your jab has a string that is true, which she does here, the 1-2, this is going to be a true combo. Once again, we set it up to where if it wasn't a true combo, he would block it. So we know this is a true combo. This means this is guaranteed on a -10 hit. So if something is -10, this is something that's going to be punishable for you. Now, this is something very important to know because a lot of things are going to go from like -10 to -12, 13, probably 14. And once things start to get to 15, that's when things start getting launch punishable. So a lot of characters have like 15 frame launch punishes. This is when you're going to get your big combo. And once again, talking about the combo theory that we talked about before, this is where you're going to get the launcher into the screw attack into the actual ender of your choice. So this is when you're going to get those big combos. But until then, knowing your punishes like this, like the 10 frame, or say like a 12 frame, like 12 frame right here for this character, so doing something like this, or maybe a 14 frame, which is going to be something like this for this character, or something like this. These are going to be very important to know. So knowing like, okay, they did something that is -10 frame punish, they did something that's -12 frame punish. This will naturally come over time as you learn more about what the characters are doing on the screen. But if you're having trouble with the actual things that are happening, you can use the replay feature, and of course with a new replay takeover, you can actually practice these actual sort of punishments. The games will even tell you what some of your punishments could be because they have a punishment training tool inside of the replay feature, which I'll go over in a completely different video, talking about how to utilize that and actually how to improve by utilizing those features. But just something to keep in the back of your mind for sure when it comes to punishment is keep that in mind that a lot of things are going to be within those ranges. Of course, certain things are going to be even more minus, especially like lows are going to be like -36 and stuff like that. Really heavy minus tools, and that means you could just get full-on blown big punishes even from your while standing attacks. You know, these are going to be heavy launch punishable, so keep that in mind when you're blocking lows or when you're blocking things that look very minus and a character reels back. This is going to be the opportunity for you to actually go for those big launching counter hit combos and stuff like that. So don't leave damage on the table. Test to see if things are punishable. Always try to test to see if something that is jab punishable, and then once you know that, try to go and work forward from there. So if it 10 frame punishable, cool. Is it 11 frame punishable or 12 frame? You know, maybe your kid don't got 11 but you got a 12 frame. Is it 12 frame punishable? Oh, okay, cool. And then work your way from there and see exactly how minus something is the more you get comfortable at seeing tools and you're actually blocking them. So that is the point of punishment and what you should be trying to utilize and questioning inside of your matches. And that pretty much covers everything I want to talk about in this beginner tutorial to Tekken 8. There are a couple other things to talk about, which I will talk about in a tips guide, talking about the actual crush system in the game, talking about how to utilize crushes, talking about that, and of course talking about how the chip system in this game works, because of course inside of this game you do have actual, you know, chip damage, and you can have recoverable life. So there's chip damage and recoverable life inside this game, and you can utilize that to your advantage by chipping your opponent out or by gaining your life back from certain attacks. So these are going to be things I'm going to be talking about in my tips guide. So if you want to know more about the game and more advanced stuff, then look forward to that for sure. But anyway, if you like anything I had to say, drop me a like. I greatly appreciate it. And viewing more from me, follow my socials. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know the next video goes live. As always, my name is Tekken, and I'll see you next time. Signing out.